KeyDigital, the experts in digital audio-visual and control systems.
Welcome everybody to another edition of KD Live. That's Key Digital Live. I have a very special guest with me here today, a good friend of mine as well, Andrew Clark. Andrew is the owner of Continuity. He is a KeyDigital adopter. Continuity is located in Birmingham, Alabama. Andrew, I want to thank you for joining us today on KD Live.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we are going to be talking today specifically about a new product of ours, which you have adopted early on. I think you have some great things to say about it, or I wouldn't have had you on here. So, but you know, it's one thing for the sales guy to talk about a product, but it carries a whole lot more weight and gravitas to have the integrators who are putting it in place. As well, of course, the customers too, but because if it doesn't work right, they're not going to promote it, and you know. So I thank you for coming on. But first, I would like for you to kind of share a little bit about Continuity, what all you guys get into in the AV world, as well as how long you've been in business. You are, as I mentioned, you're in Birmingham, Alabama. And you've got a nice new facility. You were just finishing up when I met you for the first time 2 years ago when I came on board here at KeyDigital. And so tell us a little bit more about Continuity and how you came to be the man you are today.
Okay, thank you, Dwayne. So started Continuity in 2014, and we specialize in pretty much all low voltage structured cabling, do quite a bit of fiber optics, AV, you know, a lot of background music, paging, display installation, HT-based extension, matrices, pretty much the whole KeyDigital line. We've used almost all their products, and they're always coming out with new exciting things that are helping customers.
Well, you know, a lot of the new and exciting things that we do come out with are from input from you guys, you know, from integrators. I was an integrator for many years for KeyDigital, and you know, Mike Simberg, our president, and of course his magical brain comes up with a lot of this, but it doesn't do anything to create something that nobody wants. And so a lot of input does come from the field, and you've definitely given us input through the years, and we appreciate it. So today we're going to focus on a new product that you have adopted pretty early on, which is our KD-WP8, is our 8-button wall plate IP controller. And you know, there's been a lot of wall plate button controllers out for several years, and everybody's like, well, what's so unique? Well, pretty much all of them have been RS-232 serial controller. So when we came out with this just a few months ago, really, it's an IP controller, so you can send IP commands directly to devices, which more and more devices have IP control capability. But the nice thing, well, we just got kicked out.
It's not recording.
Well, no. So today we're going to be talking specifically about our new KD-WP8, which that is, as you well know, our 8-button IP controller. This fits in a single game wall plate. And a lot of people say, well, you know, wall plate button controllers have been around for several years. Well, they have, but most of them are RS-232 only. And what's unique about ours is it's an IP controller, so you can directly control IP devices, because many devices now have IP control capability. But because we've been in the control business for so many years with Compass Control, we're able to also, with our controllers, along with the WP8, as you've done in a project we're going to specifically be talking about later, are able to also do IR and RS-232 control, as well as triggers for screens, etc. So if you'll bear with me here, I'm going to share my screen and jump into, go ahead. Did you have
Well, another thing too that I really like about the wall controller is that it has a built-in web interface. And so it doesn't require any special software or, to take your laptop or anything like that. I mean, for the most part, you can program it right on site, almost from the customer's computer. And it makes it a really easy, device to set up and install.
Absolutely. And I remember you telling me that that was one of the things you really liked right off the bat. So I'm gonna bring up the screen and we'll go from there. We'll talk about some of the features that, here we go. So yes, as I mentioned, our KD-WP8 IP control keypad. So as we mentioned, it's got 8 buttons, and you can program up to as many as right around 20 events on a single button press. So if you wanted to open the whole room with a macro, you could do so. As you just now mentioned, it's web UI programmable. It is PoE powered, so you would need to hook it to either a PoE switch or put a PoE inserter in. That's no big deal. As I mentioned, you can add one of our master controllers for additional IR and RS-232 or relay trigger contacts. You can also do key combo lock and unlock. It's got an open API, so it's very simple to program. As you know, you can also just drop hex codes if you already have that from another manufacturer's product, right in the in the GUI and program that way. It also has a virtual keypad, which is nice because you can add that to a mobile phone, and you just type in the IP address /user, I believe, and you can control the keypad on as long as you're on the same network on your device, and you give obviously the security credentials for that. And did you find because it comes with 175 icons included, did you find that was helpful for what you were doing, and did it give you everything you needed for programming? Plus we have blanks as well.
It did. I was able to flip through there and find the one that would work for that scenario. You can also, there's 3 or 4 different LED colors you can pick per button for the press and whatnot. So you can also kind of customize it in that way too.
Yeah, you can do state change and all that kind of stuff. So that's great. And as mentioned, press, release, and hold, and toggle events. And this has 200 events possible. I'd say 20 per button, so at least 160. And and again, if you run out of buttons for what you want to do, add another one. I mean, the price point on this WP8 controller is, you can probably attest to, it's very economical and for what it does. So here's an example showing strictly IP control using a simple IP PoE switch, going straight with TCP IP, UDP, or PJ link commands directly over the network. Next example here is using any one of our controllers here, which I know in the project we're going to talk about with you here in a little bit, you use the CDX800, so you could add RS-232/IR, or you can do triggers as well. I'm not sure what all you did with that, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. But since I mentioned, we've been doing compass control now since 2012. So we've got our MC1000, our CX800. Also, all of our AV over IP encoders and decoders have master controllers built into them as well. So those can be used as well. Or you can simply put a PoE injector in along with one of our controllers and do IP, IR, RS-232 control as well. So here's just kind of some of this is not your project here, Andrew, but jump in anywhere you see something that you'd like to talk about. This is using one of our presentation switchers, our UFS-42, and we're controlling that with the WP8. And so you can see we're using our BYOD, which you did use in the project as well, which that's another phenomenal product that is just flying off the shelves. And
we've used that a handful of times. It's very good.
Yeah, and very simple and easy to use too. So, and using the unique thing here, we're using CEC control here out of our UFS 42. So we can send a CEC command through the WP8 and over the HDMI connection, turn the display or projector on, off, volume up and down, and mute, all without an extra cat connection, just a HDMI connection into the HDMI in, if it is CEC display controllable. So same idea here. Well, was that the same one? UFS 42. This is the PS 42, which PS 42 is another one of our presentation switchers that has the HD-based C input for the 2-gang wall plates that we have. Also using our BYOD as an additional source, and controlling similar to the way we did the UFS. And our big daddy, the UPS 52U, using one of our bigger wall plates with USB connectivity, so you can take a camera back all the way from right above the projector back through to the computer connected in through the wall plate. Here you can use a PoE injector or the PoE switch. So several different ways, all using CEC display control. But if you don't want to use CEC display control, or if your display doesn't have it, you can put one of our controllers in. I think that's what you did, Andrew, on your project, which we'll get to just a couple of seconds. And then here's just an additional, adding the AMP 220, again, a piece that you used in your project we're going to discuss. So you can control all of these things with the WP8. This is such a robust little controller. No licensing required, I might add. Not, with Compass, we have device licenses that you do have to purchase one time for the iOS device, but with the WP8, you do not have to do that. And with the virtual keypad on your phone, it's really quite an amazing product. I'll just kind of skim through a couple of these, just using the different switchers that we do. Same thing, controlling all the way through the amp with the microphone, etc. So
and I know a lot of the scenarios you're just showing, had one WP8 in there.
Right.
I see some projects where you may have 2 or 3 of them next to each other to control, a more sophisticated room or more technology.
Absolutely. We were talking about that. I had another dealer was discussing. He's got 2 buttons left, but now that he's seen what it can do, he wants to add some more to the system, and so he's just going to put another WP8 in. It's going to give him the extra 8 buttons, and then he's just going to go to town with it. So it's kind of phenomenal when you start working with it that you realize, wow, I can do a ton with this. And a lot of people don't want to have to worry about carrying anything around or charging or anything like that. And so the WP8's there working. And again, very easy to program. So,
and I could see scenarios too, to where let's just say it's a simple room with just a TV. It basically would, you would install it on the wall, you would have the injector, and then it would connect directly to the display and pretty much replace your remote control that, 9 out of 10 times walks away anyway. And then you wouldn't have to worry about batteries. So it'd just be a really nice self-sustained installation. Somebody walks in, they flip the lights on, and then boom, right there, they have on, off, volume, channel control, and so on.
Absolutely. And also, because it's a single gang wall plate, it could mount into a table box in the conference table or a desktop box, and so it's very useful, very robust. So what I'd like to do now is chat a little bit about the project that you just completed in Birmingham at Ard Construction, their conference room project. And so I'm going to skip through. Why don't you talk about what the customer is wanting, and then what you decided to implement and how that all worked out for you.
Okay. So I met with the customer, and they used the training room partially as the conference room partially as a bid room. And so during bid day, they'll have anywhere from 8 to 10 people in there, and they will pull up drawings and Excel sheets and whatnot. And so they wanted 2 large displays. So we installed 2 80-inch displays side by side, along with a 4x4G, I believe that's the correct part number there.
Yeah, MS4x4G, right?
4x4G matrix switch that has the computer inputs connected to it. So for the most part, on the wall control, you can walk up and you can have mirrored images. So your left and right screen would be mirrored, or on the keypad, there's a number 2. If you press that, then it takes that second monitor, the right one, and turns it into the extended desktop on the computer. So you can either have, you know, a mirrored display, kind of like you're seeing in the right-hand corner where it says ARD, or you can push the number 2 button and have a extended desktop. So you could have, you know, an Excel sheet on one side and you could have a drawing on the other side. We're also controlling the system on and off. We also have a AMP 220, which is, you can see the volume controls there for the master volume. And we're using the MS4x4G to de-embed the audio. So any HDMI signal that's fed into the matrix, which is all of them, gets that audio de-embedded and plays through 4 speakers in the ceiling. We also put in a BYOD device so that they can, you know, wirelessly connect and you know, broadcast video or their screen. And then we also installed an HD-based KeyDigital HD-based T device underneath the table so that if someone comes in with a third-party laptop, they can connect. We are controlling pretty much everything via IP except we're controlling the amplifier with RS-232, and so we're using a CX800 for that control.
Excellent, excellent. So yeah, so as you mentioned, you're using the WP8, which we've already gone through all of these aspects, in conjunction with the CX800 for that RS-232 control. And here's our little CX800 right here. And along with our MS4x4G, and you mentioned the independent audio matrixing, so you can de-embed the chosen audio that you want for the room. And then our BYOD 4K, which this is an amazing piece that allows anybody to connect wirelessly from a PC, Mac, iOS, Android, and Chromecast. That's not on this slide, but Chromecast, which is very important in the education market, especially. And then, as we mentioned, you're controlling the AMP 220 with the WP8, the volume out of that for the room volume. So, so do you find pretty much everything really easy? What did you run into, or what do you have good, bad, and ugly to say?
The WP8 was phenomenal. Worked really well. I mean, with any of these projects, the hardest part is you know, going and finding the commands for the different TVs and things like that. You know, with the KeyDigital stuff, you know, everything's laid out really well in the manual, so that's pretty easy to find. But overall, I mean, you know, minus getting the TV, you know, the physical installation, we had everything up and programmed in just a couple hours and tested. So
I might mention too, you know, because of our almost now going on a decade of compass control, we have an enormous amount of those IR and RS-232 and IP libraries in our system. So that hopefully made it a little bit easier for you to get that as well, and didn't have to go every time all the way to the manufacturer's documentation, which sometimes that can be hard to find. And also always we have our tech support there to help out with that as well. So hopefully if you needed that, that was good. But this is a fun little project. I mean, it wasn't a huge project, but the overall usage of it and the way it feels to the customer is, you know, pretty high end compared to, you know, what they might have paid for other similar systems for features. And, you know, I think the way we've done the WP8 and the integration with our other equipment here, you were able to do a very robust system on a very nice budget for the customer.
It definitely was very good install, and very clean. I mean, the training with the users was, roughly 10 minutes. I mean, you just describe what each button does. There's not much to it, which is, I find very nice, when there's just not a lot of complexity to it. You don't get a lot of random calls and things like that. And another thing that was really nice is, once you finish the programming, you could go in there and export the configuration. So if something does happen later on, or maybe they want to add an identical room at another facility that they have, I mean, you could pretty much just go in there and load that file, maybe tweak it a little bit or whatnot. But it was definitely very nice and easy to use, especially with the web interface.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that's great to hear. Anything else that you want to mention before we close out?
Well, Dwayne, I appreciate your time and asking me to talk about some of the KeyDigital products, and I'm definitely excited to see some of the new stuff that's coming out and start putting it in.
Well, thank you, Andrew. And like I said, I've enjoyed getting to know you over the past couple of years since I've been on board here at KeyDigital. And I love the fact that you really grasp, I know a lot of times integrators, they kind of hold off on new products, but you grasped this quickly, and you saw the breadth of what it could do, and mixing it with our other products, as well as some of our other manufacturers that we don't necessarily compete with, but complement. I mean, like I said, we've written so many modules for so many different things. You mentioned, I think there was a Clear One camera in this. We have our own camera, but sometimes it doesn't. Not everything fits everything. But we've done a lot of projects with their equipment as well for teleconferencing, et cetera, with their DSPs. So that's what's nice too, is to be able to work with, have our products work with other manufacturers' products too, and not just our stuff. I mean, the projectors, the screens, all of that. And it's a very nice looking project. And we thank you for the shout out on LinkedIn when you finished it. In fact, you did it rather quickly. I remember the order came in, and it seemed like the job was installed in pretty amazing time. So I think that goes to show how easy it is to set up and program. And so anyway, thank you, Andrew. Andrew Clark, owner of Continuity in Birmingham, Alabama. We appreciate you so much. And that concludes today's episode of KD Live. We thank you all for joining us and hope you enjoyed this presentation, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dwayne.